place, and Dark Souls Remastered 5th place. Fudgecow, respectively, on Dark Souls 3. Any percent No Teardrop 4th, and any percent 2nd. Very respectable, but we're not playing Dark Souls 3. We're playing Nier Automata, so let's focus on that, and we're off.
I see them starting.
Everything is designed to end.
So,
Perpetually trapped.
the beginning of this speedrun actually is kind of boring.
And death.
The first import you have to do is at 1 hour and 40 minutes. 1 minute and 1 minute and 40 seconds. 1 hour and 40 minutes is the end.
Chance to kill him.
But yes, Nier has a couple of different cycles to how the game plays out. One, which you're seeing right now, is the sort of flight suit sort of flyer 2D scroller. We call this shmupping, shoot 'em up.
Yeah, it's a shoot 'em up. Classical shmup. Yeah.
It's got a little bit of bullet dodge mixed for some interesting mechanics on your first playthrough, but when you get it down in speed running, it kind of becomes unkillable time. You can do them more efficiently by trying to clear the waves out as efficiently as possible, which you'll see these runners doing.
Yeah. They are basically an auto-scroller that you can speed up if you play it good, because they will spawn enemies, and they will enter the screen, shoot some bullets, and leave the screen again. But if you kill them, if you kill all of them quickly, then you will advance faster than you would by just letting them pass by.
Another thing you're going to see interesting that the runners are both going to do is, it's just a tiny micro optimization, but they're going to intentionally get hit with the lasers to take damage to clear out all of the large and medium pots in their inventories before they get into the normal mechanics of Nier, just to reduce down on menuing time for buffing.
Yeah, basically, it's two item menus where you want to consume a buff, and you have 2 items less to scroll down. It's just a couple of frames, but it's basically free, so why don't do it? One thing we should point out at this moment, Nier Automata uses a load time remover, and we also use that for this tournament. So you might see their timer stopping or you will see their timer stopping whenever there's a load screen on screen. So their timers will desync during the run, but that's normal. And yeah, so.
And there's a couple of areas in the run that it does make a difference. One we'll see about 40 minutes into the run. Actually, that might be a little bit late, but where we can use that same sort of loadless save mechanic to cut down on our time and just take a more efficient route.
Captain, I think.
As well,
Yeah, so.
the other change that adds in is, it used to be faster when we were doing real-time attacks to use the Japanese text, as it helped speed up load screens by a decent amount, and definitely a measurable amount if you were doing it over an entire RTA run. But now that we've gone to loadless timers, the Japanese text doesn't make as much of an impact since the timer's paused anyways. The only one that actually makes a big amount of difference would be having English voices instead of Japanese voices. I think it saves down about 6 seconds on dialogue over the run, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I don't know the exact timings, but it's faster. That's all I need to know. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks to loadless times, you can run in whatever language you feel most comfortable with, which is actually pretty nice especially for starting, for beginners of the speedrun. Because Japanese menus aren't too hard once you're comfortable with it, but learning them in Japanese would be hard. So it's nice that you can learn them in English or whatever language you prefer. So, and we're coming up on the end of the first shmup section.
Alert. Large enemy group detected.
With a small lead from Fudge, apparently. But at this point, this almost means nothing. So, yeah, now we're in the main gameplay of this, how this game works. This is how we play it most of the time, and how we prefer to play it, because we have a lot of nice movement techniques and combat techniques. Yeah, those only work while playing as 2B here, and not while in the flight unit.
And it's definitely one of the things that makes this run interesting and a lot of fun to run through when you're playing it is all of the movement mechanics offered to you through Nier, just built into the game, not abusing anything, just playing the game the way it's meant to be played. There are a lot of options that allow you to just move more efficiently throughout the terrain and just mechanically improve yourself to up your speed. And you're going to see a lot of those smooth sort of mechanics come in the next phase of the game.
Yeah. We're at our first boss fight here. This is Mark's. And yeah, like most of the prologue stuff, his fight is on a dialogue timer. Many stuff in this is on a dialogue timer. So you will see our runners waiting for dialogue a couple of times. You might not see them waiting for them because it doesn't look like it, but for example, this fight just now was on a timer. Fudge has had some problems with crane skip apparently, but they both got it down.
So now we're seeing that showcase of the different types of movement options. You see them combining a lot of different aerials.
Do it.
One thing you can do to increase your height is there's a small window of time after you jump off the ground, and if you hit a heavy attack, you will perform a lift, which will jump you up into the air. And after that, you're allowed to use one jump in the air after that, and so you can chain together a bunch of aerials to increase your height or move yourself further, and that will be greatly showcased actually coming up after this silo, where we have the second hardest skip in the game, 10 minutes into the run.
Yes, hardest or second hardest depending on who you ask, but it's definitely one of the hardest skips. It's bridge skip. It's just another high jump, but it's the highest high jump in the entire game, and it's pretty tight. So yeah, you saw Fudge failing there a bit, and we're both at bridge now, and well, whoever gets this first will take the lead.
And what makes this skip particularly difficult to people learning the run and learning bridge
got it
skip?
Pretty much the same time. This is amazing. So yeah, this skip is one of the most difficult ones, and even the best runners might fail it a couple of times. So we actually saw a decently good performance there, even though both of them failed it a couple of times.
So here we're just standard out of bounds right now, just traversing through the factory. We're going to get into another silo, which is just another grinder. See how they both take
the
it.
first one, and yeah, it's just killing the enemies as fast as you can.
I know.
A nice thing to save some time before the end boss of the prologue. But we will have way more than enough time to talk about that one.
And so this thing you'll see on the overhead here on Danflesh's screen pretty quickly is they're going to try and line up the pod laser to try and hit as many of those 5 enemies as you can. If you can hit most of them, you're going for a god laser. It can help save a lot of time in clearing them one by one.
Yeah, if you're good at lasering, you can hit 3 of them pretty easy. You can actually hit 4 of them, out of the 5. It's pretty hard, but it saves time.
I surveyed the entire factory, but couldn't find anything resembling
So-
a target.
Maybe they.
Canaris is sad because no one used the swag angle strat.
We're expecting to probably see some swag strats, not in this race, just due to how tight these two runners are. It is anybody's game, so taking any additional risk for swag is pretty unlikely.
Location wrong.
But
I guess even they can
maybe
manage
in some of the more split races between higher and lower seeds. We'll see some swag strats later in the tournament.
Yeah, so we're fighting marks again now.
Detected. No response from law
This time it's
communication.
two of them, but that's not too bad because we only have to kill him half the way. So you can see on Fudge's screen, the half bar is half gone, but he doesn't take any damage more, and he's basically already dead. And we're coming up to the end boss of the prologue. And this is Engels. And he's a big boy, but he's not a nice boy.
He can
Most
be
of this
a very mean boy with his RNG.
Most of this fight is on a timer, and the two sections in this fight or two of the, I think 3 sections in this fight where you can actually save time, they are entirely RNG and dependent, and the third one is powerfully RNG dependent. So
Pray for no punches, essentially.
yeah, yes, pray for no punches. Punches is a move. Punches is a move that you can do randomly in the next. It's the one we just saw on Fudge's screen. If he gets it now, it doesn't matter. We're seeing it now on Dan's screen. In this phase of the fight, it doesn't matter what attacks you get, but in the next phase, punches can lose you up to 20 seconds. So
Now, I think this would be probably a good point to explain, but since we're just sitting on angles and they're just throwing out attacks, but it's on a timer anyways, do you want to explain how optimal combat works in this game?
yes, so most of the time we have a thing called damage glitch. Basically, it's the attack that throws where 2B throws the sword out and spins it in front of there. If you trigger that
Going to destroy.
in a certain way, it does 5 times the damage it's supposed to do, which makes combat quite easier. And later in the game, we'll actually be able to have 2 of those swords at the same time spinning, which is double damage glitch. And yeah, that's basically it.
It does require... it's not particularly difficult to do once you've got it down, but for a new runner, the amount of button inputs might be a little intimidating until you get the rhythm down.
Proposal. Evade.
So we're still waiting on the angles timer. This section is completely timer based.
So,
you
yeah.
don't even have to do damage to him at this point. As you can see, both runners have opted to do the kind of swag strat of going up on the left pipe and just ignoring angles.
Yeah. So we already had the first RNG section. I didn't see it. Did anyone get punches? I don't think so.
I don't think either got punches.
And no, I know Fudge didn't. I didn't see if Dan got them. So yeah, what you just saw, Fudge jumping up there. That's actually a pretty easy skip once you get used to how movement works in this game. It's a nice one.
Actually, I think Dan did get the punches due to his time behind. He
Yeah,
punches
I
when you
think
can
too.
get them end up losing you about 20 seconds.
20 seconds is punches.
Whereas any other
So-
projectile ability that angles will do only takes, depending on which
Yeah.
one you get, it's either the optimal
Depending on which
or...
ones you get or not, but all his attacks are similar, aside from punches, which is 20 seconds slower.
So it's a big kick in the pants to reset 15 minutes in because Angle decided to throw you some punches today.
Yeah, so
I have to help 9S.
Very nice ninjas from Dan. He
very
lined
nice ninjas
everything
from
up,
Dan.
lasered
And
everything.
better ninjas than Fudge had, so he got some time back. And yeah, ninjas, we call it ninjas, those machines, because they just jump from the sky. And that's the one section in this fight where you can save time by skill, but also a bit by RNG, because they might just dodge all your attacks, and ninjas actually are pretty often dodge your attacks. Another reason why they're called ninjas. But Dan managed to get some of the time back that he lost to the punches.
Ideally, it'll probably be Fudge coming out, I want to say 12 or 15 seconds ahead at the end of Prologue would make the most sense.
Might not even be that much after that ninjas, but I'm not sure. Also, again, this phase we're on right now, where they're just flying around and shooting angles, it's just another dialogue one. And at the end of the dialogue, there's another RNG section depending on his attacks, and this time Dan had some luck. He got a pretty fast end of the angle, so
And it's kind of
how
funny
much
with
time we're behind.
with the end of angles when you
So
play the
Fudge
game through
hit
for the
the
first
loading
time.
screen at 15:30. Yeah, that's gonna be a bit more than 12 seconds.
So now Fudge is in Bunker, and Bunker is just a lot of dialogue and menuing cinematics.
That's 23 seconds difference right now. That Fudge is ahead. But
Punch
like
is
we
mad.
said, yeah, that's basically the time loss from punches, and this can change at any point in the run.
Again,
Also,
all it
if-
takes is one little screw up on a no clip or something like that, or
Yeah,
even just
just
a small little
Like
mistake.
20 seconds, that's literally just taking 2 tries or 3 tries against first try on a copied setting clip later on. So what you're seeing on Fudgecow right now is set up, because in this game we're playing as androids, and androids, after they sleep, apparently need to set up their settings again. So the game guides you through the settings menu in there, which is actually a pretty awesome thing, but not for a speedrun.
I always end up not pulling my dialogues as much as I need to. I always get worried
Yeah.
about that.
They both had pretty clean dialogues in here. Menus, I mean. But yeah, you can, on the menus, like, you have, if you have a wrong option, you have to choose it again, and basically it just loses time. You can lose a lot of time on menuing.
Now, another
And-
thing to note is we spend a lot of time mashing dialogue in this run too.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
you do spend a lot of time mashing dialogue.
Nier runners definitely can mash the dialogue fast. Me, not so much. I'm a little bit slow, but these guys
Well,
appear to
yeah.
be doing it pretty solidly. And another thing I was going to mention as I was coming up was you'll see a lot of the times before runners hit cutscenes, they'll do a dash swing or some type of dash into the cutscene box. What that stops doing is because when you play Nier through, as you would approach the cutscene, it slows down and kind of pans cinematically, and 2B will walk slowly forward to the cutscene over 2 or 3 seconds. But if
It's
you
2 seconds.
2 seconds, so if you get
Pretty
the
exciting.
motion of doing like a dash swing into the cutscene, you can skip that completely.
Yeah, like if you, yeah, basically you do a good movement and you skip the walking stuff, trigger the cutscene immediately, saves 2 seconds. We are in the second shmup section now. It's not really a long one.
One
Not
notable
really
thing is you just get no health pots here, so you want to
Yes,
be careful when you get hit here, because if you
Yes.
get yourself too low, then you're worrying about having, for the next 15 minutes, about getting hit once. And if you don't want to do that, you can buy health pots at the trader in Resistance Camp, but that's menu time that you're going to lose time
Yeah.
on. So
Well,
best
you
just
have-
not to hit on this shmup in general.
Yeah, you don't want to get hit. If you do get hit, there's one recovery you can pick up for free in a chest at Resistance Camp, and it doesn't even lose time. So you can pick that up and heal yourself again. But of course you would prefer not to. So, and as you can see, Fudge already left the shmup again. It's not a difficult one, it's not a dangerous one, but we are speedrunning this. We are trying to optimize this, so you still can save and lose some time there. Dan apparently had some really trolley spinners. Those spinner enemies, they can be really annoying because they can just, if you damage them, they might decide that they are scared of you and fly away, and it loses time over to killing them because you have to wait until they despawn. That's what Dan had there, and it cost him some time, if I saw that correctly.
Yeah, fidget spinners easily the most despised enemy in the game by a lot of runners. Not
Yes.
because they're particularly hard, just because they're really frustrating to deal with when they decide that they don't want to work with you.
They are usually not dangerous, but they're annoying.
Now, I'm going to explain the type of movement that you see them doing right now, because there's you get the evade mechanic to dodge attacks and everything, and it's how you start off your running animation. But the people in the Nier Automata community have crunched the math on what the optimal movement is, and long dashing is by far the most effective I'll rephrase that. It's one of the most effective for the beginning until we pick up our sword. But
running in this game isn't actually slow.
It is faster.
Running actually is one of the fastest one, but it takes, I think, about half a minute until you are at full speed when running, and that acceleration is not good enough for us speedrunners. So they are using long dashes. I think they're using dash punches even, with using a light attack punch at the end of the dash. That's even faster than just doing the long dashes. And once they get their upgraded sword, they will do dash swings. Basically doing a heavy attack swing at the end of their dash animation. You will see it once they finish those side quests. What they are on right now is they're doing 2 side quests you get at the resistance camp. They're called side quests and listed as side quests, but they are not actually side quests because they are tied into the main quest. You have to do them. And yeah. So they are side quests, but they work like main quests. So Fudge is already finished. He's returning to the resistance camp, delivering the side quests and going on with the main quest. And Dan is just picking up his last items.
Fudge has taken a pretty considerable lead at this point. I want to say 20 or 30 seconds at this point, just with some better movement and better luck on the shmups and angles. But again, anything can happen. All it takes is a couple screw ups trying to do any type of hard skip, and that time will be equalized immediately.
Yes.
So again, back in Resistance Camp, we're just doing a lot of menuing here. Can be kind of annoying, a lot of mashing, a lot of just timing the menus to go through as fast as possible. But once you pick up everything and pick up the quest from Anemone, it's off to the desert. As we can see, Fudge is already on his way. Dan is still working on the menuing section. Another fun note about the Nier speedrun route is back in the Resistance Camp where you see Dan right now, we used to do all of the buying for the run there. You would buy all your buffs and all your pots there, as well as a sachet, which just makes it so that animals in the world don't run away from you when you come up to them, and you buy animal bait. And in the old run, it was faster to go and bait an animal and ride it all the way over to the desert, to the barricade, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But we found a skip.
Yes,
I
we
can't
have.
remember. Yep, but
Yes, we did. You will see Fudge shopping now instead of earlier, and then he will pick up this transporter. And we used that transporter later on for a safe warp, and that one wasn't in the older route, so we just ran past the transporter, so using the animal was faster.
The other benefit to the strategy too is the trader at the Resistance Camp does not sell the plug-in chip Resilience, whereas the Desert Trader does. Resilience is a nice plug-in chip that, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're above 80% life, you take the hit, but you don't get staggered. So you can continue doing your damage glitching, and you can just pot heal yourself to get through the odd hit that makes it through. And that helps fighting, makes it a lot more efficient when you're not having to get smacked back and waste a couple seconds.
Especially the most useful thing about resilience probably is that if you get hit, you can instantly heal yourself, which is pretty nice, especially in the final boss fight. So we're at the desert barricade, we just jumped past that, and Fudgecow also skipped a cutscene, the desert discovery cutscene. That skip doesn't... The barricade skips talking to Jackass, and that's actually her name. I'm not insulting anyone here. And yeah, she blows up the barricade. You might have heard Niners complaining about blowing up the barricade, even though we didn't. So it's a nice time save, and you saw Dan getting the cutscene there. Fudgecow skipped it. It's not too much of a time save skipping that cutscene, and it's kind of difficult skipping it, but every time save is a time save, so if you're able to do it, you do it.
Now you can see Fudge has already gone and grabbed Pod C. Dan is on his way over, and we need Pod C particularly for its pod program. In a lot of the side-scroller bosses, just having that pod program to deal out extra damage allows us to one-cycle a lot of the bosses later in the fight, or later in the run angles. Grun helps out a lot, so skipping Pod C is not an option currently in the way the route is designed.
Yes, so the pod programs, you've seen the laser they shoot sometimes, and the missiles when they were in the flight unit. Those are the pod programs, and basically they have a cooldown. But for every pod you have, you can have up to 3 pods, and you get an extra charge of your pod programs for every pod. So
oh, and it looks like Dan got stupid rocked.
Yeah.
So on Fudge's screen, he's about to start doing the desert housing skips. This is what I'd say the first big opportunity to soft lock the game is. For an experienced runner, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but definitely when
it still is a huge time loss if you mess that up.
It's definitely worried about that here. There's a couple places that they could mess it up.
Yes, so we just circumvented the entire desert housing sequence with the machine running away from you and stuff. And now here we have to get a trigger and then jump down to the Adam pit. And we actually need another trigger on that platform that Fudge just jumped on to, and that's the soft lock the Six was talking about. Because if you miss that platform and jump down, you have to get back up to enter that cutscene, that platform, because of the trigger that's there. And yeah, that's kind of difficult. And the alternative is to reload your save file back to the moment where...
Ooh. Dan's having some issues with the skip over to Adam Pit.
Yes.
And it's very annoying with this skip because if you go over the void here, for some reason, when the game goes to unstick you, it doesn't spawn the ground in, so you have to time an aerial to knock yourself up, essentially. To
yes, you need basically need a jump right when you respawn to give the ground some time to spawn in. So let's see. Yes, and they're both going for void out strats on the actual skip there. You can go do this from without voiding out, but it's more difficult. Don't need to. Also, you should probably see the runners changing their weapon sets now. I think. At least that's the point where I usually do it. for the damage glitch that I